Hello, good people. Hello. Welcome back to another car conversation. For those of you that are listening to me online, this is Make America Think Again with Vaughn. Welcome, 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 everyone. Okay, so I wanted to continue my conversation about things that happened this week. And I want to pick up with something that was floated, I believe it's on Friday, by Stephen Miller, and that is suspending the writ of habeas corpus. Okay, so if you don't know what the writ of habeas corpus is used for in the courts, if you want to petition or the courts want someone to produce an individual, um, or you or your family members believe that you have been wrongfully detained, they can file through the court a writ of habeas corpus. What it means is literally it means produce the body. So produce the human being is what it means. Now, the way that Stephen Miller has presented this, and it has been suspended before. Let me say that it's been suspended in our American history before. A couple of wars, because the only time that it is to be suspended, or in the Constitution, the only time that it is allowed, according to the Constitution, to be suspended is during times of insurrection, invasion, or conflict. Okay, and those are the 4 times in American history that it has been suspended. That's not happening right now. America is not in a conflict. America is not being invaded by anyone. January 6th happened. Yeah, that insurrection happened, but there's no insurrection happening right now. So why or how he's proposing this, I'm a little confused. But what I do think is what they are trying to say, this administration is trying to say, is that because they keep using the word invasion over and over when they're talking about or in correlation to migrants. And here's the thing about that. You can't have an invasion and have control of the border at the same time. So literally, while they're telling everyone, but specifically MAGA folks and their constituents, hey, we have the border under control. Look at all these flights. Look at all these men in chains. And then you got the bobblehead, not the one from Congress, but the one who's over, oh, you know who I'm talking about. She was Mayor Kristi Noem. So you have her flying down to this prison in El Salvador and posting in front of, posting pictures, or they're posting pictures with Kristi Noem posing in front of these cages with hundreds of men behind them. When you're putting all that information out there for your constituents, your followers, your MAGA cult, whomever, you cannot, in that same vein, say, well, look, we're capturing all these people and we're sending them to El Salvador, we're sending them to Venezuela, we're gearing to open up Alcatraz, we're trying to put people in detention centers in New Jersey, we got people in Louisiana, we're capturing all these folks. That cannot be true. And at the same time, you have an invasion. Where's the invasion if you're capturing all these people? It is counterintuitive. It doesn't make any sense. So that's number one. But I believe that's what Stephen Miller is trying to use, this whole fictitious invasion, to try to suspend the writ of habeas corpus, because the thinking is that they can use it then. If it is, okay, so if it's suspended, then they can get away with what they're right now. They're in violation of a Supreme Court order. Let's talk specifically with Abrego Garcia, right? It was a 9-0 decision from the Supreme Court, that came down from the Supreme Court, for them to return him to the United States. They still have not done so. They are still defying a Supreme Court order. Okay, that's number one. So if they were able to get rid of the writ of habeas corpus, then there would be no legal way or ramifications, or there would be no way for anyone to go to a court and petition, say, hey, My husband is being unlawfully detained in El Salvador. My mother, in this last case that we saw, very public case that we saw out of Massachusetts, my mother is being unlawfully detained. Here's her paperwork, here's her, her green card, or here's her, whatever exception she had to be in the United States. There will be no legal recourse that people can take if they are able to get rid of the writ of habeas corpus. Now they're saying it in pertaining to immigration. But hear me out on this. The writ of habeas corpus is also used in your regular kidnapping case. So anyone who is being unlawfully detained by any other person, you can have a child that has been taken by one parent in a custody battle. If there is no ability to use the writ of habeas corpus legally, then that one parent that is supposed to be the custodial parent cannot go to a court and petition that the other parent bring the child back. And then who's to say that it doesn't move into something else? Just randomly, because we still don't know who these people are. We've got bounty hunters mixed in with contractors. We've probably got some vigilantes that are probably just volunteering to do this because they're racist and they want to get rid of all the Black and brown people in this country. And then you do have regular ICE officers or Homeland Security. And now they're getting police departments to work with them as well. So who's to say we don't get to a point in this country where just any rando is snatching up people, kidnapping people, and then there's no way for you would not have any recourse to go and try to get your family members back. Your spouse, your wife, your daughter, your child. Because they have removed this. They have gotten away from it. They have excluded it from the Constitution. Now, where do I think this is? The overarching thing that we should really be looking at is that they're probably at some point going to say, you know what, this Constitution isn't working anymore. It's a bit outdated. We need to change it. That's where I think a lot of this is going. But right now, what they've thrown out there, what they're floating right now is suspending the writ of habeas corpus. And I know some of you out there are thinking, well, I don't care because that only pertains to immigrants. And I was born right here in America and nobody can get rid of me. But yes, they can. If they get rid of the writ of habeas corpus, they can pick anybody up. Anyone can pick anybody up, disappear your ass, and your family members, your friends, your loved ones will have no recourse, no legal recourse to make whomever that individual is produce your body in court. So pay attention to what is happening. The biggest two things that happened this week, in my opinion, because there was a lot that happened in this week. Also, them floating and talking about sending migrants to Libya, opening up these new locations in Africa. Dear Black people, the bells should be going off for you. Read the tea leaves. Read the tea leaves on that one. So there were a lot of big things that happened this week. But in my opinion, the two most important things that you should be paying attention to is that they have gone from arresting a judge to now a mayor. I know Letitia James, Attorney General of New York, they have filed something against her, I believe the first criminal case, and then they're also floating, arresting Democrats in Congress. Now, keep in mind, this is all about intimidation. That's what that is. They want us all to be afraid. They want us to cower. They want us to back down, and we cannot do that at all. But that's an important thing that happened this week, transpired this week. And the second most important thing that you should be paying attention to is them trying to push this notion of suspending the writ of habeas corpus. It does not, they're speaking of it in the language of it just pertaining to immigration, but if it is removed from the Constitution, It will pertain to all of us, every person. And it just makes me think that we're just one step closer to them just picking, snatching anybody up off the street and disappearing their asses. And no one will be able to do anything.